Which shoe is better to hoop in? The Nike LeBron 19 or the newly released Nike LeBron 20? Let's check it out. Welcome back to our channel. Today we are taking a closer look at the newest models to release from LeBron's signature line with Nike. But before I break down the performance side, I'm just going to hit on some of the basic info first. So LeBron 19s are going to retail for $200. That is hands down the most expensive line that Nike has going on right now. But I mean, on the plus side, this year's LeBron 20 did keep the same exact retail tag, staying at $200 even. But I mean, it's like his 20th signature shoe. So what do you really expect? Of course, it's going to be a little bit more pricey. Honestly, I'm just glad they stayed at $200 because I mean, this is going on 3 years now with LeBron's signature line staying at that same price, and most of the time after 2 years or so, you'll start to see a $5 or $10 price jump. But I mean, we don't have to worry about that yet. But now doing a quick rundown for the appearance of these models. I mean, just look at them. Like, what a drastic change we got to LeBron's line this year. Like, the LeBron 19s look way more like something that would come out of his shoe line than this year's LeBron 20 model. But I'll go ahead and stay with the 19s first. So clearly this is going to be more of a high top design. You know, the LeBron 18s were like somewhat of a mid top, but high tops are kind of what we've gotten a little bit more used to just coming out of LeBron's signature shoe line. And I'm going to get to this a little bit more in a second, but these kind of have like a shoe within a shoe type feel, which is pretty much like everything you can visibly see. It's like a big overlay that's covering up another shoe that's kind of running underneath. And it's a lot easier to feel in person than it kind of is to explain, but these have a really cool flywire cable that's also coming up from the upper. That's a pretty nice look. And then kind of around the ankle, just like wrapping around the back side of the shoe, there's going to be a little air pocket or just a bubble. And then the bottom portion of the tongue is going to get LeBron James LJ crown logo. And then near the top of the tongue is just going to be a little see-through lion face with like some bubble material. And above that is some Strive for Greatness text. So, I mean, these definitely look a lot more like, you know, your typical basketball shoe from LeBron's line. But now switching it over to the LeBron 20s, I mean, these definitely do not. Like, I actually got these early too. Finish Line apparently like dropped it by accident and just didn't cancel the orders. I think the official release is supposed to be like, you know, sometime like early to mid-October. But honestly, I am a big fan of this shoe. Like, one of the major differences obviously is going to be the shoe height. Like, we don't see a ton of like low top shoes coming from LeBron's signature line, or at least they don't like, you know, usually release that way from the jump. Like the LeBron 19s, they did come out with a LeBron 19 low variation a few months back, but like, it honestly makes me wonder if they're going to create a high version for this LeBron 20. It's kind of like a backwards way to do it, to release the low top first, but I have seen some people in the comments already pushing for that, so I guess here's to hoping. But I mean, these are really sweet. Like the Nike swoosh that kind of overlaps on the upper, the golden swoosh actually comes off of the model kind of near the back half. It almost gives you like a deconstructed look in that area. That instantly reminded me of like, you know, what Virgil Abloh was always doing with Off-White, kind of making that Nike swoosh come off of the model, and I love it. And then on the inner side of the upper is going to be another Nike swoosh, kind of surrounded by some orange stitching. And then on the tongue is going to be LeBron's signature kind of faintly etched into the shoe. And then you're going to have 2 X's on top of that. And I'm just assuming that's just like some Roman numerals on there to mark out the 20th model. Then the same 2 X's are also going to show up at the bottom of the lacing system. And then around the heel, you're going to get like a yellow patch with LeBron's logo. And then like the 2 X's are going to show up there again. But another change that they made to this shoe that we've kind of gotten used to seeing from LeBron's line is that these don't have that see-through midsole. Like, I mean, whether it ran like the full length of the shoe or you had it like in the front or in the back, you almost always had like that spot that would allow you to see the cushioning units just through the midsole, and clearly that happens on the 19s. Like, you can see it from the front to the back of the shoe. It's all kind of a see-through pocket there, but they did close that off for this year's model. The LeBron 20 is just going to have a filled-in midsole, so honestly, I do kind of miss that. I mean, that was always a really cool part about LeBron's shoe line, and you know, I don't really think there's any other signature shoe line out there that really does that as consistently as his does. But I mean, that pretty much covers everything that there is to go over for the look on these models. Now let's go ahead and see how they play on the court. So now getting into more of the materials and the performance side, and starting off with the cushioning, I'm just going to start off by actually letting you know what each shoe is kind of using in their cushioning system before I kind of break down how it plays. So starting off with the LeBron 19s, these have Nike's retooled cushioning system that combines 360-degree visible max air units with a thick responsive zoom air unit in the forefoot. And then the max air is supposed to help dissipate impact forces, while the zoom air is kind of there to meant to like kind of help drive you down the court. Then on top of that is just going to be some Cushlon foam that feels soft, stable, and responsive. So I mean, there are a lot of cushioning features there for this LeBron 19, and it is pretty typical for like that to happen in LeBron's line, just to put like, you know, a special focus on the cushioning. But as for the LeBron 20s, these do feel a little bit different, and they are set up a little differently. So Nike actually did something really cool that a lot of shoes don't do. Like on the inside of the box, you get this little card that almost looks like it came from a deck of cards, but on the other side, it's gonna have like pretty much a full breakdown of what is being used within this shoe for cushioning. So I'll just kind of rattle this off to you first. So on top, you're gonna get some Cushlon foam that we do see in a lot of LeBron shoes. That was also there on the 19s too, like I just kind of said. Then underneath that is gonna be an air zoom unit that kind of looks to be like it's gonna be in the front and in the back on the heel section. Then you're also gonna have a carbon fiber midfoot shank just to help keep this model intact. You're gonna get a lateral guardrail, just like a lot of pieces worked onto this model too. And cushioning has been like the best, or like maybe just like the most consistent part of LeBron's shoe line ever since I've personally been testing them out. Like sometimes they'll struggle in various other categories from year to year, but I've never like really had any struggle with the cushioning, just thanks to all the features that Nike kind of usually puts in that category. And to be straight up, I think the LeBron 20 is a little bit softer than the 19s. Like the feeling that you get underfoot is really nice. The foam kind of reminds me of the PG5 a little bit, and the collar is like ultra padded. Like it's almost an inch thick sock liner is kind of what it feels like. And that's not to say that the LeBron 19 is bad or anything like that. Like the LeBron 19 is still super nice. You just don't get quite as much bounce from what I've noticed. And using our durometer to check out the stiffness of the midsole, the LeBron 20 reads in at a 39.5. That's pretty much like right on the average for most basketball shoes in that section. The LeBron 19 is going to be a touch more firm though, reading in that like 45 to 49 range. And both of these have like that Cushlon midsole too. So, I mean, I guess it's just a little bit less stiff on this year's LeBron 20 model. But the main takeaway for this section is pretty much, I mean, you can't go wrong with either of these shoes whenever it comes to cushioning. Both give you a really great feel, but it does feel like the LeBron 20 may be a shade softer from what I've noticed. For the materials and the support, we just saw some similar features between like the cushioning between these models, but for these two categories, we are going to see a lot more differences kind of come to the surface. So I'm going to start off talking about the LeBron 19s, and for these, there's just a lot of things going on with the materials for this shoe. I did touch on this a little bit in the appearance section just a second ago, but these are going to have that full-length inner sleeve that conforms to your foot for a snug and secure feel. And then you have a thin, transparent exterior layer that is highly durable and lightweight to help reduce in-shoe movement. And then to go along with that are going to be some flywire cables that are kind of worked into the lacing system just to provide you more support as you tighten those. So the LeBron 18, I mean, they use some type of, liner weave upper, and the support just, wasn't the greatest on that LeBron 18 model. I think it is pretty clear that Nike went out of their way to throw a ton more support features on the LeBron 19s. And like I said, like the laces are going to feed through that giant overlay that just does give you a more secure feel. Not to mention they added a small outrigger just to give you a wider base and to kind of help with balance. And this is just a higher shoe in general. So I mean, your ankle is going to feel just a little bit more stable. Support is definitely a spot that I think the LeBron 19 made some major improvements to LeBron's line. And then now flipping it over to look at the LeBron 20s, I'd say it's pretty easy just to tell from looking that on the LeBron 20, there just aren't nearly as many moving pieces as there were on last year's model. I mean, the upper has more of like a knit or a mesh feel that is just noticeably more thin compared to the LeBron 19s. And honestly, I'm going to bring this up now because LeBron does typically have just, a heavier shoe line in general, but the changes made to the LeBron 20s clean that up a lot. The LeBron 20 is down to 434 grams for a size 10.5, and that's like 150 grams lighter almost than last year's LeBron 19. Those were weighing, 594 grams for the same size, and that is a major difference. And clearly we are kind of looking at a high top shoe compared to a low top shoe, but I mean, it's not my problem. Like that's just the way that these models were kind of released this year. But if you even want to take it that way, the LeBron 19 low variation compared to the LeBron 20, I mean, it was still like 50 grams heavier on the LeBron 19 low. So, I mean, I think the LeBron 19, that whole model was just a little bit too heavy for me to really enjoy playing in. But with all the extra materials that they took off of this year's model, it doesn't hurt the weight. It does kind of mean that all those same materials aren't going to be there to kind of help with the support. And this is going to be noticeably a thinner upper, like I did just say that. So I was kind of looking for, some additional support features to help eliminate any movement. And I can't lie, like there just aren't a ton on here. The LeBron 20 doesn't have like an outrigger, no midfoot band from what I've noticed, no overlays for the laces to feed through or anything like that, any of those features that they had on last year's model. So I do feel a little bit of just give to the upper whenever you're making those harder cuts, but the heel is secure. Like there's no movement in the back half of the shoe, no heel slippage or anything like that. I just kind of wish there was like a midfoot band or some type of overlay just running in the front half of the shoe to help a little bit more with the lateral containment, because that's really the only spot I could see there being a problem. So I mean, this is definitely a spot. I mean, whenever you're looking at the LeBron 19 and the LeBron 20, that these models are not very similar at all. To finish off with traction, that's another spot where these shoes are using two entirely different setups. The LeBron 19 traction pattern is actually inspired by LeBron's crown logo being like condensed down into this micro-engineered blade pattern on this rubber outsole that is meant to add multi-directional traction. And like I was kind of saying earlier, like cushioning has always been one of the strong points on LeBron's signature line. But traction's always been one of the spots that his shoes tend to struggle. Like, I feel like his budget-friendly line, the LeBron Witness line, honestly plays better for traction than his signature line has been. But forget that, the LeBron 20 is finally where I think Nike figured it out. Like the LeBron 20, you are still going to get that typical random pattern, like that traction pattern on there, but these have to have like some type of different rubber compound from what they've been using, because these shoes are just sticky. Like, I've loved how the LeBron 20 has been gripping the court so far. You get noticeable bite that just wasn't there on last year's model. Like, the grooves still feel pretty durable too, so people might judge you for it, but these are more than good enough to use outdoors if that's how you want to put this $200 shoe to use. I kind of opted just to do that for my first impressions video. Now I'm keeping these indoors only, but I mean, I love the traction and just how it's been playing on the LeBron 20, and that's honestly a game changer for his line if they can keep that section feeling good. But to finish off with sizing, I did go true to size on both models, and it feels like there's a little bit less room for the length on the LeBron 20 compared to the 19s, but I mean, it's pretty standard on the width though. I wouldn't call either model like wide or narrow. So for the final ratings and starting off with the appearance, the LeBron 19s do look a little bit more like a LeBron shoe, and I'm sure that some people like that. I like Nike switching it up though. This is a nice little revamp to LeBron's shoe line, so I'm gonna start off with the LeBron 20 here. As for cushioning, I mean, that's a spot that you can't really go wrong with either shoe. That's definitely one of my favorite parts about both models, but the LeBron 20 does give you a sock liner that does feel just a little bit more padded, and like I said, I mean, the cushioning does feel really plush under your foot on that model too, so I'm just gonna stay with the LeBron 20 here. As for the materials, I mean, both shoes get that $200 price point. The LeBron 19 clearly has more stuff going on, but it's almost like too much. Like, I feel like I almost have to dock them a little bit for making that shoe so heavy. I mean, for the LeBron 20, you don't have as much going on, but they still feel nice. So I'm just gonna keep that section as a tie here between those models for the materials. But I mean, all the lack of like the stuff going on with the LeBron 20 for the materials doesn't really affect them there, but it's more so about the support. Like, I mean, the LeBron 19s have like 3 or 4 different features on there to help with better support. The LeBron 20 just doesn't really give you a whole lot to like add to that secure feel. So I am gonna go with the LeBron 19s for that section. But to finish off with traction, that is easily going to the LeBron 20s. I mean, these have some grip on a LeBron shoe that I personally haven't experienced from his line yet. So I mean, with all that being said, that is going to lead to me going with the Nike LeBron 20 as the better shoe to hoop in. I mean, really the only place that this year's model noticeably took a step back would be in that support category. Like, the LeBron 20 is going to be lighter, it's going to be just as soft or maybe even a little bit softer. It's way better for traction. I mean, and honestly, I like the look for this year's model too, but I mean, obviously that's going to be more so an opinion, but I mean, if LeBron can keep the traction rolling in his line, I'm already excited to see what the LeBron 21 is going to look like. Thank you guys for taking some time to watch. Feel free to drop a follow or subscribe if you like this video, and if you're interested in buying the Nike LeBron 20 and you want to support our channel, just click the links that we have here on screen, or we have links down below or in our bio for both shoes, so feel free to check that out. But until next review, I'm Landon from Shoewear. Peace.